She travels the road of unknowing. One name or all, she does not know who she is. When she kills, when she loves, when she challenges those above, her way is precise. She brings disaster to those she seeks. Never seen, never reckoned with. Chase her at your peril. You made a beautiful monster. Her only hope is to break down and destroy all created her. She has weapons, but her mind is theirs. She will do the slightest thing to please her handlers. She will go to places far and wide to shape the sea of history of her owners. If she doesn't break free, she will die. In a gilded cage, she must fly. Her letters from home are not real. She sees the world as an amusement to be ignored for her will to supplant. Chase her at your peril. You made a beautiful monster forever. Created her. Not bending or breaking. She walks away down the street. You think you know her, but you've never seen what they don't show you, how they control you.
Greetings in the name of the Most High. The Lizard Index is bouncing around between, like, say, a 2 and a 5. 5 when there's, because of mental anguish. A lot of people are really worried. There's been an incredible blowout, incredible boom in the stock market. The economy, as the Straits of Hormuz were opened before the European Union, NATO traders could get together and vote on what to do about Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. And when they were meeting, it became moot, the whole thing, because it already was open. So that just goes to show how short-sighted the European Union is, how short-sighted Trump calls them a paper tiger, or cowardly NATO is. To know that NATO would never have your back, they would cut a deal with the communists. Seriously, they would let you get burned to death. They will. I don't believe they will ever be friends, really. You know, I just think they, unless you had a communist regime, unless everything fell to Liza Mondami or another guy who will be getting into politics, I predict, will be Hassan Piker, who thinks that the streets should be run with blood, and any kind of vacancy home, if you have, like, say, a vacation home or something, if you don't rent it out, you should be murdered and people should squat there. So don't expect sympathy. We're warming up into my topic. The reason that you back Trump and overlook, the flaws, the personality, ego out of control, all these kind of things that, bombastic statements. The reason that you support Trump is because you and he and I, we are anti-communist. We understand that if communism creeps in to the American government, America is over it. It falls the way of Rome. Guys that are revolutionaries like Hassan Piker, who had a sold-out audience at Yale. Yale loved him. The young people love communism, but I would say the young people love death. They love euthanasia because that's what they would be doing. They will be killed, but they cheer it up until, I guess, the day their throats are cut. And then they're like, oh, maybe you guys were right. You know what I mean? It's like, and then of course the black-pilled anti-Trumpers who had a lot of things right about the conspiratorial government. Oh, thank you for indulging me. I know that's rude to drink, but I think if I drink water during the show, I become that much more clear. So that's the reason that you vote for Trump. I said I didn't think I was going to vote before. I am going to vote. My vote is against communism. It's not that I love a guy like, it's not that I have any feelings for the Democratic Party fell some time ago, but now the Democrat Party is in the hands of the communists. There's no more radical left. All there is the Communist Party. That's it. They are the communists. They are not radical. Trump failing, Iran winning, and all the things they're cheering on, the end of the United States and all that is not radical in communism. That's normal communism. That's normal, everyday gumshoe communism. It is not radical anything. What we would say, okay, that's radical. It's because they want to overturn, they want the United States to fall, to be destroyed. And they want the people who have prospered here to be punished, each and every one of them, with death if possible. This is the Bolshevik mentality. They get nowhere. They think, they look on at the fall of Russia and other regimes, even the fall of Venezuela, of Maduro. They look at that as a complete tragedy and a reason to impeach Trump. The victory in Iran, which they desperately didn't want, or even worse, making a peace deal in Iran and a peace deal between Israel, Iran, and Lebanon, and dealing with the terrorism and the proxies is also something that communists do not want. And the EU didn't want it. That's why they didn't join in. It's not that they're tepid, it's that they don't want it. And they don't want it mainly because they want the world to be China or Iran, or, with those kind of rules, where dissidents are murdered in the streets. And as I said, when Tucker Carlson started backing Iran, and Rand Paul, another traitor, when they started backing Iran through their TDS mind virus, they're backing the murder of some 40 to 50,000 people during the last riots, where the people want to be free of the Ayatollahs and free of the theocracy. They're cheering on Iran and saying Iran poses no threat when they're the greatest exporter of terrorism of any country, and believe the United States should be destroyed. So they say this publicly. I remember when they took over 47 years ago, and they just took the freedom away of every person there. A lot of refugees came to the United States. It's interesting, and a lot of Persians came to LA, big Persian population, and came to Beverly Hills, populated Beverly Hills to where they, at one point it was like, it's all Jewish. It was like 80% Jewish in Beverly Hills, all revolving around the entertainment industry. And then the Persians moved in, and now they're the dominant force in elite Beverly Hills. I don't know about, I guess, true of the west side of LA. I had to flee LA because of the evil that is seeks to destroy any real Christian, and this is why the churches are corrupt. The pastors are corrupted in a theology school, and they're given churches, and they have to prove, that they're conformed to the world. The church's job is to conform the members to the world and give lip service to Jesus, and that's the way it works. To emphasize good acts, charitable acts, of course, but the whole point is to make them slaves of the world first. And this is why we spoke out against TPUSA and all that. And Trump seems to be into all that stuff, and I don't share that same interest that he does. He seems to be, he gave a speech at TPUSA, and it sounded good. But the reason that I'm going to have to deal with TPUSA is because they have one thing in common with me that I really like. TPUSA is anti-communist. And the problem with evangelical Christians has been that they don't vote. And, so I'm just saying, maybe look at it this way, that the vote isn't a pro-Trump vote or even a pro-false Christian vote. The vote is to keep communism from taking your children, to fight on the battlefield, even though the guy next to you fighting you may completely think is a loser and an asshole and you hate his guts. But you're going to fight together because the enemy is the common enemy of both of you. And so that's kind of my take on it. I'm not going to love or join in PTUSA because, what's it called? The Turning Point, TPUSA, PT, TPUSA. I'm not going to be joining in, and I don't expect that there'll be an invitation from, MAGA or Mar-a-Lago or anywhere else, because my views are outside the mainstream. In that, yes, I agree there's corruption there, but I don't want to see my fellow citizens, even if I disagree with them, because see, I believe I can pray for people and they will come around. They will, I can't do much for black-pilled people though. And I have to guard against taking a black pill myself. The black-pilled people, and over the years, they've turned on Trump and they said MAGA is dead, if I heard Alex Jones right. And that Trump destroyed the midterms on purpose because his goal, according to Alex Jones, I guess this is scorched earth, because he said, if you say one more thing about me, Alex said, I'm going to take you down I'm going to go scorched earth. So he's now in scorched earth mode because Trump tweeted again. And he said that he mentioned Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, and then down the list was Alex Jones as characterizing him as bankrupt. And he himself said he was bankrupt. And he just said these are the people that are, they used to be pro-Trump, but I guess he got swayed by the other side. There's only two sides. There's God and understanding that God, exists in everything. Without God, there'd be no existence. I'm going to play something for you. I have proof by the greatest genius in the world. If I can pull it up, it may be difficult to do, but I'll try to do it here. Okay, so I'm going to this link. Okay, now here is a genius's proof. He has the highest IQ in the world, well over 200, and he. Okay, what I need to do now is.
IQ claims that he can prove God exists with just simple math. You've got to see this.
I am the world's highest IQ record holder, Young-Hoon Kim. I can prove that God exists mathematically. No difficult formulas are needed. Just the three easy facts that even children learn in school. First, a line cannot start without a first point. Think about drawing a line on a piece of paper. In geometry, every line has to begin with at least one point. Without that first point, there is no line at all. The same is true with existence. If there was never a starting point, then nothing could have ever begun. But we clearly see that life and the universe exist. So there must have been a first point that set everything in motion. Second, you cannot cross an endless path. Imagine counting down. If you start at 10 and go 9, 8, 7 all the way to 0, you can finish. But if I tell you to start at negative infinity and reach 0, you can never finish. Because there is no first step. Time works the same way. If the past had no beginning, today would never have arrived. But here we are, living right now. That shows time must have had a first moment, and there must have been a first cause that set time into motion. Third, multiplication shows that power must come from somewhere. Think about 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. The answer is always 1. Nothing changes unless you bring in a stronger number like 2 or 3. In the same way, if the universe only repeated itself with no new power, it will never begin or grow. There must be something greater, a real source of power that multiplied everything into existence. Now, let us put it together. The only explanation that fits all three is a first cause, starting point, necessary, powerful, timeless, and intelligent. And this is exactly what we mean when we say God exists.
And if God is true, then it no longer becomes a math problem. Then it becomes a personal one. And here's the thing.
Okay,
if you're
this
on
is,
the fence about whether or not God is
This is that was being hosted on someone's podcast. Okay, but anyway, I came across that and I thought this won't prove it to them. My proof that God exists is by talking to someone that says, if I say God does not exist, I've already claimed that he exists in order to say not exist. It already presupposes that he exists. So if I say I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. I have just proven that God exists because I have to have a God to not believe in. Therefore, I've already know the answer. And this is what I believe. I believe all humans know the answer, but for whatever emotional reason or whatever mental reason, they want to deny it. That's why I believe that the world is in sin, because the world denies what it already knows. And of course, this is my thesis, that everybody knows that God exists. And so when you deny that truth by saying God doesn't exist, or like the idiot Time Magazine people or the idiot New York Times, they say, 1965, God is dead. Well, they just proved that God is alive, because God cannot be killed by the New York Times or by Time Magazine or their idiotic editors. Okay. But when they say something like that on the cover, God does not exist or God is dead, all they're doing is telling you, I am Antichrist, I am evil, because the opposite of God lives is evil lives. And there's when God created the worlds, he had to create it out of opposite, not just create time. Notice how that thinker, the highest IQ in the world, talked about motion. He said something had to put it in motion. There had to be a time to create motion. He had motion and time wedded together. Isn't that interesting? That's what we've been talking about. And any fair-minded physicist would tell you the same thing. They would tell you the same thing, that motion proves God's handiwork, because nothing can exist unless there's a start. If there's no start, and the start has to have motion, in other words, that it can't, if 1 times 1 equals 1, then there has to be multiplicity. There has to be creation in order to have, or else creation would just keep repeating itself over and over, which it doesn't do. So there had to be a starting point. Indeed, when people start talking about the timeline, suspending time and doing experiments in time, and then they're also simultaneously doing experiments in time, gravity, motion, and even creation, and then thinking of the possibility of other worlds. Like, I have an imagination, and I think of what might I have done different, and I imagine myself having done a thing that I don't like, and I imagine having done it differently. Well, in other words, I'm creating. I just proved that, I would have to put that in motion. Can I revisit the incident and do it again? Only if I have access to time. And that would be only if I'm allowed to do that. And if it all depends on God, But I would have to acknowledge God in order to address time travel. Yes, Trish.
I just want to stop Ben's looking.
Oh, okay. I would have to, if I'm talking about motion, if I'm talking about distance, I'm talking about time. So there's a lot of mythology that say Kronos is really Satan or Saturn, and Kronos, chronology, Kronos is the creator of time. But what created Kronos? Okay, so we rest so what it comes down to is what the podcaster was saying. It comes down, it's more important than mathematics. It's more important than proof, because we have proof that even a 5-year-old could understand beautifully. But what does it mean for us? It means every human has to make a decision, that we are all in the valley of decision. Nobody knows that God does not exist. Nobody, not one person on earth knows that God does not exist. They lie. But first and foremost, they're lying to themselves. Then there's the crowd that wants to be God themselves and be in control. The need to be in control is a godly trait. It also proves God's existence, that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So therefore we would be creators as well. There'd have to be, a beginning and an end point to humans, and a trajectory of how humans are going to evolve or grow through time and space. And the same thing with existence. It might also say that without time and without time, you wouldn't have objects in space, because there had to be a beginning. The object had to begin somewhere to exist somewhere. So then it's not surprising that entropy enters in, that is the wearing down of things, All creation seems to have entropy. The sun will burn out, the earth will exhaust, the creation, the people's bodies give out over time. And so everything is on a time schedule. You can time, if you didn't even have a clock or time, you'd invent the concept of time because your body is wearing down. So that would be marking time. You were created on such and such a date and you ended on such and such a date. And then the idea becomes, well, but what is there really? Well, ultimately, all there is God. That's all there is. There's God before creation. But in creation, God's in all things. So all there is God. So to deny that and then to rule over a people is to commit genocide. All communists are genocidal. All communists embrace murder. And they would like to murder anyone, not just people that take up the ideology themselves, but all people that have had lives of privilege or power need to make up for that, need to be punished for that. And they are, in essence, trying to play God. But the main mistake that communists make, and the reason they're so evil, meaning they enjoy causing calamity and chaos for people and taking away peace. Now, why is, making life impossible for people? And then they say, well, we're the party of compassion. We care about you. No, they don't. All the young people and most young people go radical at first because you think you know everything. And, to become a communist, though, you have to deny God right off the bat. But in so doing, you deny your own existence. You deny your brain. You become stupid, obviously, because you're denying the process, the unlimited process of mind and thinking and thought and things that exist outside of time, like love, like emotion, like music, and such and such and so on. And the apprehension or comprehension of that seems to be why you say, well, why would God create all the multiplicity, all the objects and the people and the whole bit? Why would there be a creator? And I think it's a simple answer. This is what a child would answer, so that God could enjoy his creation. And, on many other levels, it's, there's hardship and difficulty and persecution and things. And it's like, so God can strengthen his people and make them better. As it's proven that if there's no resistance and there's no friction, there's no problem, if people are just lying around doing nothing, they atrophy and go extinct, right? They're more likely not to have children, not to have a future, not to start a company, not to do anything people do in life, because they've lost the will to create, because they have denied God and lifted up themselves as objects of pleasure, that they need to be in pleasure, and then take it further in decadence. They want to be in pleasure while other people suffer, to kind of boost that pleasure or that power. And that's why they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. What can give you absolute power? Money can give you absolute power. And people that worship money, they'll do anything for the almighty dollar. A lot of times those people are poor when they focus on money so much. But that love, even if they're unsuccessful in getting money that they desire, they are still corrupt, or overwhelmingly corrupted. And that's why you have the masses conforming to Satan, or to the opposite of God, into denial of God. And, or as Kurt Cobain says, a denial. And Smells Like Teen Spirit, which I don't even want to go into that. But, it's the great mistake of the young to think when they discover sex that they're free. They're finally free, and then, only to realize The Beatles lyric of "Boy, you're going to carry that weight a long time." Yeah, you're going to carry the weight of all that came before you and all that will come after you because you've denied God. You won't carry any weight whatsoever when you affirm God. Jesus carries the weight, not you. So the song is false, but it's false by people who have denied God or who say God is really Hindu or something. God is some religion that they approve of. So we have a lot of problems, but I mean, the main one is blindness. And that is that people don't understand that communism, i.e. Satanism, it's political Satanism, is called communism. And what it purports to do is destroy humanity. That's the whole goal. There is no other goal. It's the goal. And just like when you abuse people, when you abuse innocent ones, and then they feel guilty and ashamed, they recreate the abuse as they become sexualized adults that mommy or daddy gave them, or friends, or whoever, teachers, or whatever. This is why pedophilia is illegal, because then they play it out again in becoming abusers themselves, or like the case of my daughter, it leads to suicide. It leads to suicide, or in my case, suicidal tendencies, if you will. And life will be much better after I'm gone. So that also fuels the fire of, and the only thing that stops me from suicide is realizing that, first of all, I'm not responsible for what people did to me, and I am responsible to find a way to live. And I have some insights of that today on how to live after abuse, multiple personalities, depression, psychosis, all the rest of it. I have the answer. Of course, the answer is God. The answer is Jesus. But I have the answer, which is, it's a very important thing why Jesus gives us a new name and new life. And the reason is because the past, which is time, becomes part of your creation, of you. So abuse resides in your cells. But abuse resides in your DNA. And abuse, the brain doesn't know any difference between abuse and anything else. The brain only knows a sexual release. And so people that are abused keep seeking or overly masturbating or whatever because they want sexual release. But the brain just knows the pleasure of that release. It doesn't care how you get there. You got to whip me. You got to beat me. Make me write bad checks or whatever, extort from me. Fire me. I want to do everything right and then get fired. And then I really, really am sexually stimulated by that. And I want, any girlfriend or any wife or any friend to lie to me and betray me, because and so when people are complaining about a lot of that, you have to look at what's happened to them. And are they recreating? Oh, you don't have to be looking at porno and masturbating in order to give the brain that dopamine hit it's looking for. It doesn't care how you get there. You could be a murderer and you can only get off when you murder somebody. There are people like that, serial killers, for example. And it's just, they can't, they don't need to have ejaculation. The brain is happy with the adrenaline, let's say, of doing the wrong thing. And but and if sometimes people want to be victims, and they go, they did this to me, they did that to me, they ruined me, they destroyed me, but at least I know I did everything right. I showed up for work, I obeyed, I did my job as good, if not better, than anybody else. And look, for no reason whatsoever, they fired me. And then it happened again and again and again. I feel like there's a cloud over my head and I keep getting fired. But what did I do? I didn't do anything. Yes, but what kind of abuse? Like I had abuse like this. In one personality, my mother would say, go out and play, as a little tiny child. And then I'd be confronted by her and she said, no one told you you could go out and play. What are you doing? You need to be punished. And so there'd be punishment for doing what she told me to do. And this happened over and over again throughout just every day. And I didn't realize the multiplicity part, that she had been abused until later on in life when she admitted it to me. And she never admitted how crazy she was, or that she wanted help. She was perfectly happy with feeling superior. And I think she thrived on chaos. In other words, all around her, people would argue, fight, their health would go down the tubes, whatever, and she would be kind of sucking that up into power. And it was all because that's just part of this of her DNA, of her abuse pattern that's replayed. So you can replay the abuse. You go, what the hell is he talking about? I understand. I ramble around. So sorry, but I'm not a professional professor. But so abuse doesn't have to manifest as a wild trysts, and or girls going to OnlyFans or any of these other kind of obvious things. It can be something as subtle as not being able to, being left out of someone's birthday, or, being left out of a job that you're more qualified for than anyone, being passed over for the promotion, and things like that. When they happen a lot, you have to look at the question, well, what happened when you were a child? Because see, the reason we have to go back to childhood is because that's where your personality is growing, like your body. And when abuse happens, it affects the growth of your personality, of your personhood. And so there becomes a need to recreate the abuse if it comes from a loved one, a trusted one, right, who betrays you. They may even do it innocently because they were abused, but the pattern continues. And then you then are kept, let's say the one thing you don't want is poverty. So you forever live in poverty. You work hard, you do everything that a millionaire would do, let's say, but you never get anywhere. Today I was really grateful. Now I'm going to tell you how to get out of it. Number one, be thankful that you didn't get promotions, and be thankful you didn't become a millionaire, because if you're going to do it the world's way, it involves conformity to the world equals denial of God. It's that simple. It's either the world or God. It's two choices. It's either you believe that in the theory of the line, that no line can exist unless it had a starting point, right? So it had to have a starting point somewhere. And nothing can exist without a creator, creating the context of creation, which is time and space. So when things grow, if you have people around you who are anti-Christ, which is most of the world, then they're very much aware, or the evil intelligence, the demonic intelligence, if you will, knows that if enough trauma happens to you as a child, you'll carry it through into your adulthood. It may not manifest as you attracting, some, dominatrix to whip you or something. That may not even be it. It may just be something as subtle as blowing every relationship that you ever had. Not really, but you were perfect, or job opportunity, or health, or anything like that, because it's wired. When we say hardwired, it means DNA. It means cell memories, and cell memories need to be fed. And being fed can only be what the brain is telling you is you need to be fired. You need to be punished. No matter how good you do, no matter how noble you are, no matter how heroic you are, no matter how amazing you are, you in your brain needs that punishment and will engineer. You will be the creator and you will control everything. You will become a victim, but you will be the one that orchestrated your own victimhood, but falsely and mistakenly blaming someone else when you created everything that happens to you. All the people in your life are merely players in your script. Isn't that interesting? So therefore, what's the solution, Zeph? You talked about all this stuff, and I know all this stuff, at least some level. So what's the point? Okay, so I've gone over the past, and I see very clearly how the past is etched into my DNA. I can't shake it off. I can't get rid of things other people did to me that stopped me from being the person I was meant to become. Unless I believe that God was also part of the abuse, knew the abuse would happen. This is the person I'm supposed to become, the person that figures it out. The only way that you can be a person, it says I posted the song that I wrote. No, okay, I arranged it, but I created all the lyrics and the arrangement with my digital musicians. And, did a little video, which was still not having all the images I wanted in it, but it was, it was already, I'd put too much time into it already. So it's out there, but it's just part of the theme of the polymath Lorian West, who's, we're thinking about extending that into a, more films feature, and TV and things like that, episodic television. And so, we've had had a long time to think about, a programming and what kind of people get selected to be assassins. I mean, not just for beauty, not just for cunning, but actually with no moral compass, because everything is a blank slate. So you put the program in and they are that person. You put it so that, in other words, there is no past that's clawing at them to repeat the past and therefore limit them. What does time and space do? It means past. Influence. You grew from a baby to an adult. And the things that happen to you are in your cells, and will bear repeating until you get to a point. That's why Jesus was so intent on saying, unless you're born again, you have no life. Jesus is talking about the solution to all abuse. They think on the other side, the world side, that pleasure is the answer to it all, and will advocate sexual pleasure, let's say, for 5-year-olds, with adult supervision. But unfortunately, all these people are wrong if the goal is happiness, tranquility, personhood, wholeness, mental health, and a contribution to the good of the world and not a drag on it, which most people are. We don't hate people. We don't, it's just uncanny how people don't know what the problem is. I mean, I can talk to 90% of the people I talk to don't know what the problem is to begin with. Because, see, they never made this decision. Where did the line come from? You either choose to know that there's creator, God exists, it's proven by that, or you say, I don't believe in God. That's just a patriarchal concept designed to keep everyone in slavery. Okay, so you would be, if you take that tack, then you're evil. Then you will lie. Then you'll do anything you have to do to get what you want. But what you want, you'll never get, because inherently, because you were abused, you wouldn't even choose that way unless you had abuse. You will repeat the same pattern of being a loser in life, which is why you joined the Communist Party in the first place. They made you feel like a big man, a big woman, big big, important person. But in actuality, before that, you felt like you were a loser and bad things would happen to you. And joining the party only made you, joining the world system, conforming to the world only made you intent on getting vengeance for what happened to you. So you never, ever answer the question. So you go cradle to grave without knowing why you lived, i.e. the opportunity to ask the fundamental question of life, or questions about life, which is God real? Was I created? Is there a purpose to my life? What would that be? Who is God, if real? Or God doesn't exist. We're just here, randomly on the planet in a big fight to see who gets to live in a comfortable house or in a comfortable lifestyle, who gets to, in a war against the privileged, the haves versus the have-nots, the old versus the young, the white versus the black, and all the divisions we have get taken out, or the fight is usually between very low consciousness or unconscious people. The Bible would say to pray for your enemies, do good to those who do evil, offer them the shirt on your back. And those of you who've been taken advantage of and harmed, it's all a gift to make you a better person. But that better person can't be realized unless you're born again. And the born agains have made it look like some kind of redneck thing, but it's really new. A better word would be a new life. The answer to all the abuse and all the trauma that happened to you in your life is new life. The past is dead. Pick up and go. If it's God that created you, then go with God. And that's the new life. And give him your sadness and your past and all your stuff. That's what I really realized that is going on with me. I had to, there's no amount of therapy, let's say, that would get me to accept my bad behavior with the justification that, well, I can't help it. I was abused in this way, so this is the manifestation. No, in other words, it's like, well, I really need to pray because I don't want to go back to that old life. Or, I'm feeling that pull to, I don't want to be, little things like, I don't want to trash myself because I don't want to lose everything. It's weird how when you quit drinking, all kinds of opportunities come your way, like the world changes. And people can't explain it. They go, I don't know why that is, but I'm now making more money than I ever made before. And, there are more opportunities than ever before. And, I'm what I used to hate, my home, my little hovel I live in, my friends, my enemies, my life itself. But really what I hated more than anything else was aging and getting older, and then having an incompetent medical establishment and the earth being just a complete incompetent mess. And I hate all that. I didn't even want to be here anymore. And it turns into, Lord, this is really something. Where are we going today? And really reclaiming childhood and remaking, forgetting about the old life ultimately. And it says when your life is always, your body makes cells over and over, and every so many years, I don't know how many, you've remade all your cells. You remade all your blood, your cells, your enzymes, whatever. They get recreated. So the same too with being at peace with your mind. That following Jesus is very much a mental trip. And when I get angsty and upset, I have to drink. Then I don't drink very much at all these days, but a little bit here and there, which I'm probably going to end that too. It's not a good thing, because the enemy is, if you're not sowing to the enemy, what have you done for me lately? Satan says. Then they 2 drinks and the enemy will come after you. You know what I mean? And get you to sin if they can. And you know, watch them fall. And my past, like all children, was a sea of abuse. Other children conform to the world as a cure. They cut their hair, they cleaned up their clothes, they stopped smoking dope, they got with the right club, they got with the contacts they needed to advance in society, and they established themselves with their home and vacation home and yacht and adventures and children and the whole bit. And people said, "Oh boy, what a lucky man that is," like the song, "Ooh, what a lucky man he was. He had horses and women and opportunities and everything anyone could ever want." But it was all a lie. He would be happier losing everything. In fact, it's interesting how Trump said something the other day. He said, sometimes I wish I would lose everything to see who is loyal or not. I think Trump has a wish to lose everything, to, part of him, and I think it's because, like everyone else, he doesn't want a fake existence of glad handing, stupid, empty handshakes and, breaking ground on the new, ballroom and this and that, and the pomp and circumstance of the government, the presidency, and the balls and the talks and the whole confidence thing, and then running for office and all the lies and treachery that go on. I would imagine a lot of people would be wanting to strengthen their faith, but it really comes down to this, this idea that, when you're being proactive, you're suffering. When you're waiting on God and then acting, you're joyful. So I know it's just such a cliche, putting God first. It's not America first, it's God first. And then, what would you have me do? So I found myself today finding great joy in having, when I started on the internet, I had a lot of people curious as to who I was and this and that. And then as I got older and I sort of, I didn't really promote it or anything. I just kind of like fell into obscurity, which is why it's hard to find me nowadays. But I've never been so grateful for it. I have complained about it, but now I realize the blessing that God has given me. I guess what really made me realize it was watching the podcasters that were the big Trump supporters, and then went against Trump, saying that Trump was insane, and then plotting to launch a coup d'etat by tackling him on the White House lawn and launching the 25th Amendment on him. As citizens, they wanted to tackle him. And when I saw that, and these people, most of them, had millions of listeners, millions of followers, and that was it was almost their whole concern. And as they saw the Trump ship sinking and the midterms, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, the midterms coming and the Democrats gaining ground, they bailed ship, they jumped ship. They're traitors. There's no way you can paint it any other way. You just you don't need to say anything to them. You just know what it's up to you whether you want to follow them or not. You're perfectly welcome to. And then as I saw that happen, and I saw this fight for clicks going on between them, and how they all conform to the same thing. You know what I mean? There's a certain spirit there. And I just kind of stayed in the background, and I kept on. I felt also the frustration with Trump, to where I was feeling really demoralized about the world. I'm just not going to vote. I'm not going to participate. I'm sad every day. People are just no damn good, and since they're no good, the world will never be any good. People have ruined it, and as long as I have to be around people, I might as well shoot myself in the head. I hope they don't ban that comment, Pia. But yeah, Pia looks out for me. She's kind of like a little bit of like a little bit of a pre-monitor, where try to catch things that would be banned. Like if you say the S word, they don't care about the context. They don't want that word spoken. We don't have free speech. But I never felt so grateful, and I saw God's plan, and just how God has been healing me, over time. It's taken a long time, but just I consider healing to be when you're at peace with yourself, when you are being yourself, because you're at peace with yourself. To me, that's envious healing. I mean, if you can do that, you're doing very well. I would prize that above any kind of riches or position of power or achievement in the world, or and I realized that the other thing I realized was, whether there's one person tuning in that I'm communicating with, I'm communicating with you, right? And it's like we're having a conversation. As long as there's somebody that I'm talking to, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if there's 10 people, 1 million people, or one person. It's just what God wants me to do is produce anyway. As if I was getting a check for $1 million a year. Produce anyway. Produce anyway. And I took off the donation thing because I realized that's I had warned Alex Jones and clones of doing their own podcasts. Don't charge if you're going to talk about Jesus. You're going to talk about the gospel. You're going to talk about real truth. You're going to do ministry, because the quest for money will eclipse the the blessing, the grace that you have from God. I've just seen it over and over again. It's like it comes under the heading in the Bible when the Lord says, he says, people that follow many gods bring trouble upon themselves. And money is like another god. Position, power, success is another god. You got to be careful. Better to be kind of, at the end, when you follow Jesus, I mean, all we can ever be are really servants of the Most High. We're not the boss. And if you're working really hard and times are going, you're doing a better job than anybody else and you're getting fired, it can also be an imposed punishment from the other side that is trying to, say, punish you for your faith in God and test you to see if you'll still be loyal even if you get fired and, lose your home, become homeless, whatever. As Jesus said, the poor will be with you always. The people that followed Jesus, they were not what I would call the most well-to-do people. Jesus said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man getting into heaven. And so that's, and we've seen how all that religious success, or like I've watched the people that were considered to be prophets through the years. Oh, this is the prophet so-and-so, and they have developed a huge following, hundreds of thousands of views on everything, just a huge following. And then all of a sudden they just disappear. Boom, gone. And what's happening. They're being convicted by the Holy Spirit, and they realize they've blended the success, which is the love of success is as evil as the love of money. The desire for money, the desire for success, the desire to stroke your ego leads to pure damnation in real time of the people that follow it. And they, the need to be, to have the respect of people. Like, for example, what if these podcasters that had so many millions of views and hits, now they don't. Now they're down to like I think Tucker Carlson lost something like 70% of his viewers. And the people that were former Tucker people, they don't like Tucker anymore. So let's say that you did lose everything. You're in a pretty good position to find the truth now, to find what you're supposed to be doing in this life. Like if this podcast got shut down, it'd just be something else. I'd be doing something else instead. And I learned that one of the worst things you can do is measure yourself against other people. Measure your success or loss against other people. A lot of these things, the obsession with success and all that also has to do with abuse, that you had a bad hand dealt to you and you're going to turn it into a good hand and shove it down their throats. Success is the best revenge. No, it's not the best revenge. Success is the most expensive revenge. The only one suffering in the quest for success, because most people that quest for success don't get it. So they're very frustrated people. You see a few people that are successful, like Tony Robbins says everyone can be successful. Remember when Tony Robbins was hot? I tried to follow him once. I couldn't understand it. I just realized that I'm just more of a flow guy. Right now it's like I've got these demons on me, moving my lizard index up to about 4 or 5. And they're just like, when I analyze, well, what is going on in my head? And I realize my head is replaying, scenes from the past that I wish I didn't do wrong, or I wish I didn't screw it up. Almost like beating me with, you screwed this up and you screwed that up. How many of you can relate to, that's Satan. That's Satan just trying to get me to fight those battles on my own. No, it's like, Lord, please take these thoughts. I value your peace. Lord, you, not the world. Give me peace, Lord. Take these petty little dramas out of my head, please, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. I need to be at peace. And then you guide my steps, Lord. And I happily follow, because I'm here to just be your servant and do what you want me to do, Lord. I've done it my own way, and all I did was suffer. Today I'm not suffering. So, although today I've got some bees in my bonnet, bees in my bowler hat, and those are, one of them is the people that flipped on Trump. It's because it was hard for me to stay with Trump. I was severely tested, right? So I'm not going to even vote again. I said I forgave him on the warp speed, the bombastic warp speed speeches, which were horrible. And then some of the, and I couldn't be around MAGA people because they just worship everything Trump says. So I was just like all alone. Well, I'm all alone right now. I'm not welcome at the TPUSA thing. I perceived Erica Kirk as being a power mad. To me, she's like a mean woman. I mean, there's just nothing I can do about it. And I'm reading in the spirit. I'm going from her actions after Charlie Kirk's death. And I said my piece that she's trying to be like Queen Erica, and having Trump present her like that at TPUSA and have those blasted fireworks going, like some kind of Roman candle, like a Roman celebration of Rome. And I don't even want to go there. I don't want to talk about her anymore, or Charlie. I wrote a couple of songs, and now I'm led to do more music about whatever subject is grinding my gears, so to speak, because I realize that talking about it doesn't, it doesn't really do much good. But music seems to permeate the atmosphere, and my music seems to hang around. I see tracks I've done years ago, and they're still being played. And then, of course, movies, film, is another way, but that's more of a collaborative effort. So you don't only have a single voice, because even if you're the writer, you still have the director and the actors and all kinds of input that come in anyway on top of that. So yeah, it's not, writing a novel would be more appropriate. If I wrote the way I really felt, I don't know that my novel would even be legible, folks. I'm a good writer, but I wrote Angels versus Witches regarding a futuristic hospital experience of witnessing demons, human sacrifice, and organ peddling. It's really a documentary. And, I wrote it based on my fresh experiences in the hospital. And it led to another hospitalization. I had to quit. And I was told by some people I could only read a couple chapters. I couldn't stomach it anymore. And I said, well, that's why it's good. See, that's why it's honest. If you can't stomach it, it's more honest than if I just spoon feed you a story that I know you'll like. Now I'll hand you a story that is my story. You might like it or hate it, but at least it's honest. A reflection of where I'm at the time. And so is music. And this last track, I call it the unmaking, because to program someone, you have to unmake them first. And it's about, it's kind of a takeoff on Girl Next and the, a programmed a Manchurian candidate assassin with a perfect tabula rasa mind that's been wiped clean through trauma. No cell memories of anything. It's whatever you want, she becomes. I suppose in the future, these assassins are going to be robots because they're guaranteed not to have that past. They're right now. Turn them on, they're on. And assassination is a pretty big business in the world. Spying, black ops, covert wars, a big thing. As far as the politics are concerned, getting emotionally caught up in it isn't worth it. It's triggering. I just look at it as I'm against communism, so I'm going to vote against communism. And I'm going to vote in favor of, I know people that, young people that got relief from the tax cuts. And, the no tax on tips and things like that really did provide a bunch of relief for people, and being able to buy a car and then write off the interest, as long as it's a domestic vehicle. That's got to be very helpful. And all the things that Trump was doing, these weren't for the idle rich. These were for the everyday people. And he's got more in mind. And the Democrats want to punish those who got benefits, take them for themselves as their thieves. They want to live in the big mansions, and they want everyone else to live in squalor. It's just like the movie Elysium with Matt Damon. It's the same kind of thing. And these guys know no bounds. Anyway, I'm gonna just put it this way. Regardless of who you are, you need a new start where that stuff doesn't affect your decision making and doesn't affect your relationships. Because most of the time, what's in your cells, you're unaware that you just said, "Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Please never talk to me again," or you get ghosted. Now, why would that be? And it's got to do with, why would you be rejected on all your creations and music and everything else? Why would that happen? My signature is God, because I know God exists, because I don't just have faith, I am faith, because I know I would not exist without God. So if that's really ingrained into me, then there will be blowback from the world that does not approve. And that's so therefore I should double down on creating, double down on make them ignore you. Be ignored and do it anyway. And then in so doing, that's God's form of vengeance. People, believe me, people know when they do you wrong that they've done you wrong, and they wind up paying for it down the road because you're not the only one they've done wrong. People that play this game, like say in Hollywood, of glad handing, going to parties, wanting to be an A-lister, hanging out with the right people, making the right connections, they always fail. Most of the time, they fail. Most of the bulk of the people fail, and a few of them pop through. But it's a big ass kissing contest, and more than that. Anyway, that's it for now. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, and see you next time.
It started so young. Yeah. Run around the block, naked and alone, hoping someone will see, so you can be ashamed for what's inside of you. It's the way it came down, naked and alone and confused, wells up from inside. Nowhere to hide. Looks like the hive dictates the steps, hoping for you to come out and play. A rainy day, you run around the block, naked and alone, hoping someone will notice and laugh at you. But you know it's wrong. They make you ashamed and confused. You need what you hate. You hate what you need. All gonna come out in the end. Naked and alone, hoping someone will see you in all your ugliness. You're just hardwired to let them have their way with you. You know what you wanna do, but you don't wanna do it. To force you, to make you do what you wanna do. They're driving you mad. They're driving you insane. How can you get away? How can you live?
Thank you.